A couple of firefighters arrives at an isolated forest determined to start a fire. The fire season is weak, and they need the money to survive. The husband hesitates to continue with the plan, but the woman insisting that without fire there is no job, and without a job there is no money, and this ends up convincing him. They begin to prepare, but are soon surprised by a group of people. Hours later, they wake to the sound of music coming from a loudspeaker, and wonder what is happening. A terrifying roar surprises them, and they are attacked by an unknown creature, revealing that they were used in a ritual to feed a fierce beast that inhabits those lands. Sometime later, we meet Carla and her husband Dean, who, tired of the hectic city life, decide to start over from scratch by buying a remote house in the middle of an isolated forest. The owner asks some questions, and they explain that they are looking for a place to relax and put down roots. Carla is pregnant, and Dean, who is a writer, thinks that would be the ideal setting for new inspirations. The woman mentions that the land is special and tells a legend about an ancient people who inhabited the region known as the Night People or Forest People, described as giants. The couple laughs at the story, but the owner continues saying that some people believe they are just spirits. Carla, thoughtful, listens while the woman comments that these are just stories to keep children away from the forest. Together, they decide to keep the property, but soon after, we discover that Carla lost the baby. Dean, furious about the loss, throws away all of his son's things. At that moment, a stranger appears, and Dean asks who he is. The man introduces himself as his neighbor and says he lives on the farm at the end of the road. Dean introduces himself and mentions that his wife is inside the house. The stranger, called Arlo, says he admires Dean, but he doesn't understand and asks what it's about. Arlo reveals that he likes to handle these situations with love. Dean, somewhat confused, apologizes for his manners and says he didn't know he was being watched. Arlo mentions that in the forest, nothing is a secret, and everyone shares everything. Dean seems uncomfortable with this idea and decides to go inside, while Arlo continues on his way. The couple says goodbye to their son and chooses to bury his ashes in a flower, so that he remains rooted in that land. Later, Carla invites Dean to go out for a while, but he refuses, saying he needs to write a new book and find ideas. Carla mentions that it's not being easy for her either, and says she needs her husband's presence. Dean promises that he will soon be with her, but at this moment, he needs to focus on his work. Carla goes out alone by car and sees some people jumping over the fence of a property, but doesn't pay much attention to it. Meanwhile, Dean walks through the forest, trying to record ideas for his book, but his mind is scattered. He receives a call from a woman named Laura, who accuses him of sabotaging her. They have a brief argument, and Dean tries to explain, but she hangs up. He hears footsteps in the woods and goes toward the noise. Upon arriving there, he finds the toy he had thrown away, and when he picks it up, his nose begins to bleed. Meanwhile, Carla finds a woman hitchhiking on the road and decides to stop. Carla warns that, nowadays, it's not safe to hitchhike, and the woman jokes saying that it really isn't a good idea around there. She introduces herself as Celeste, and Carla asks where she's going. Celeste responds that she's going to a friend's house that's up ahead. Carla reflects for a moment, and the woman asks if she can get the ride. Carla apologizes, and the two soon begin the journey. Upon reaching the destination, Celeste asks what brought Carla there. Carla reveals that the intention was just to escape the city routine, but Celeste states that she's not being completely honest with herself. Then, Carla confesses that they actually came to build a family, but got lost in the process. Celeste understands the situation and mentions that she's going to meet her group, which is made up of welcoming people who accept everything without judgment, suggesting that Carla could meet them one day. Celeste thanks her for the ride and says goodbye, going to meet her group, who receives her with joy. Carla returns home and shares with Dean that she gave a ride to a woman who reminds her of the man he mentioned, mentioning that there are many like him out there. Carla also mentions that she liked Celeste's energy, and Dean is pleased that she's making new friends. At that moment, Carla spots a toy and questions what that is. Dean explains that he found it thrown in the forest, commenting that it could have been a coyote that took it from the trash. This disturbs Carla, as she can't stop thinking about her son. Meanwhile, the spirit's fanatic group gathers, and Arlo explains that the creature needs a new host, as it's dying, and they can't let that happen. They begin to dance frantically and have fun, while the beast, wandering through the forest, perceives their devotion. Lying in her bed, Carla hears the loud sound of music and tries to call Dean, but ends up deciding to go alone. Upon arriving there, she observes everyone having fun carelessly, and even gets excited about it. But when Celeste invites her to join them, her mood changes, and she chooses to go back home. Later, Celeste goes to Carla's house and knocks on the door, asking if she's interrupting something. Carla states that she's not doing anything. Celeste comments that she was going for a swim and invites her to come along. Carla hesitates, but the woman is persuasive. During the bath, Celeste reveals that she left home at 16, and Carla asks how that experience was. Celeste says it's liberating. She soon perceives a negative energy in Carla and encourages her to open up. Carla explains that she was pregnant when they moved, but ended up losing the baby and her fertility. She thanks her friend for listening to her, but at that moment, something is thrown into the water, scaring them both. Celeste gets enthusiastic, stating that it's a sign that the creature noticed Carla's presence. She asks if Celeste really believes in these stories, and she responds firmly that yes, explaining that the spirit seems to have a special affection for Carla, making it clear that the beast is lurking. At home, Carla comments to Dean about her meeting with Celeste and mentions that they were invited to meet the mountain people. Dean finds all of that absurd and refuses to go, but Carla insists and asks him to accompany her. Noticing his wife's happiness, Dean decides to please her and agrees to meet the group. Upon arriving there, they encounter people behaving wildly. The couple finds the scene strange, and Celeste suggests they join them. Carla says they intend to wait until everything ends, but soon, the women begin to rub against Dean, as if they were felines, and he asks what's happening, while Carla asks him just to observe. As soon as the devotion ends, Celeste runs to hug her, radiant with her friend's presence. Everyone welcomes the couple with joy, as if they were part of the same family, but they still find everything very strange. Celeste introduces the couple and also her soul siblings, who introduce themselves saying the same thing as Arlo. "We love you." They thank them for the affection and mention that they brought some relaxing cookies, but a woman takes offense and, before leaving, asks if they're joking. They apologize to the group, saying they didn't know, and Celeste reassures everyone, stating that it's all right. She takes them to Arlo, who is meditating, but soon stands up upon seeing them, with a smile on his face, saying that the spirit recognized them. Arlo comments that he already knows that Carla met the spirit, and asks if she had the chance to meet the new blood. He explains that they refer to the new members of the family, whom they met earlier, and Dean remembers them saying they're fanatics. He mentions the incident with the woman, and Arlo says they prefer to keep their heads in place. Arlo talks about the original inhabitants of the place, the natives who protect the spirit, and reveals that he researched much more. He says that his teacher, Ayana, started this work and that he now continues her legacy. Later, while everyone talks, Arlo decides to release the consumption of the drink, revealing that they produce it themselves. Dean asks about an older man, and Arlo responds that it's William, who has already made his passage, which confuses Dean. The women also exchange words, but River refuses to drink, as Lona didn't like to cloud her senses, and Clear asks how she knew Lona, with River responding that it was spiritually. Jerry comments that a little homemade drink doesn't hurt, and Carla asks where Lona is now. Jerry responds that she's there, present throughout the forest. Celeste, excited, says she'll be with the spirit tomorrow, according to what Arlo told her. The other women ask her to be calm for being still young. Jerry consoles Carla about her loss, saying that everyone there has unresolved problems. Taking advantage of everyone's distraction, River pours her drink on the floor and announces she's going to get more. They find this exit suspicious, as River had refused to drink before. She enters a room and begins taking photos of various things, sending messages to a man named Gil. While doing so, she hears a glass fall and becomes alert, quickly deciding to leave there, but Clear passes right behind her. Arlo observes that Dean is at a crossroads and perceives that he is someone lost and fearful of the future. Dean gets irritated and provokes Arlo, saying he's just a Latino with a messiah complex trying to please others. Arlo responds that he has already earned everyone's respect and reaffirms that he is special. Dean laughs, stating that he doesn't see any of that, and Arlo says that if he purges himself, he can free himself from what binds him and recover his creativity. Later, the couple has an intimate moment, and we notice that Carla is more connected with nature and with the beast. The group is in their prayer when Celeste sees Carla in the creature's arms and quickly interrupts the devotion. Arlo asks the reason for the interruption, and Celeste reveals that she has been dreaming a lot about Carla and the spirit, but Arlo states that everything will be as it has to be. Clear enters the room and looks at River with an expression of denial, whispering something to Arlo and Jerry, who become disappointed. Arlo then reveals that one of them betrayed him, but wants them to know that he forgives them. They return to the ritual, and River, realizing what's happening, quickly leaves the place. She calls Gil and asks him to pick her up as soon as possible, but the group already begins to approach, saying they trusted her and that she betrayed them. She pleads for her life, saying she did nothing wrong and just wants to go home, but they state that she will return to nature. She refuses to enter the forest, but they force her, and River begins to run through the forest while Arlo activates that strange music again, which seems to warn the creature about prey nearby. Hearing the roars, River runs out desperately and ends up tripping over some branches, terrified to see human fingers on the ground. She runs in search of Gil, but the beast finds her first and quickly ends her life. Carla is at home when she receives a message from Laura, who informs her that Dean still tries to contact her, asking for forgiveness, but guarantees that she will no longer maintain contact with him. Carla, upon reading the message, can't respond and cries, while Dean goes to the forest, puts on headphones, and tries to write, but the beast's roars catch his attention. He soon becomes alert as the beast begins to run around him and feels a strong pain, making him kneel on the ground. Afterward, he acts strangely and laughs at nothing, thanking for the little plant where his son's ashes remained. During the night, Dean is still in the forest, writing happily. The next day, Carla looks for her husband and finds a letter asking her to meet him in the forest. When Carla goes to meet him, she's surprised by Dean, who appears to be extremely happy and reveals that he spent the whole night writing there and now feels free. Carla finds everything very strange, and he says he needs to get back to writing, and says goodbye to her. Carla decides to seek refuge with the group, and Celeste receives her quickly. Clear mentions that River made some mistakes, but that everyone can forgive her. They start another ritual, and this time Carla decides to participate and has a lot of fun. At one moment, she and Celeste get very close and end up kissing. While everyone celebrates the spirit, it decides to reciprocate the devotion, roaring fiercely, which makes everyone happy, including Carla, who now believes in the creature's existence. While Carla rests in Celeste's lap, Arlo communicates that the spirit is speaking with him and states that he was chosen, leading everyone to celebrate, although Carla and Celeste don't understand. Later, Dean wakes up alone at home and looks for Carla, finding her lying with the rest of the group. He becomes extremely revolted to see her almost naked and asks if Arlo drugged his wife, quickly throwing a punch at Arlo and trying to attack him, but Celeste stops him. She warns that the games are about to start, and everyone moves away, leaving Dean and Arlo alone to fight. The confrontation starts quickly, but Arlo grabs Dean and knocks him to the ground, without seeming to take the fight seriously. Dean quickly hits him with an elbow, manages to break free, and moves away from him, while people hug him. Arlo tells the rest of the group that Carla and Dean should leave. Dean becomes more irritated and says they're a bunch of crazy people, and leaves the place. Celeste seems not to agree with that, but doesn't oppose it. Jerry says something to Carla before she leaves, and they continue to imitate wild animals. Later, Celeste talks to the spirit and doesn't understand why Arlo was chosen, since he sends his own people to death. At that moment, she sees the creature with Carla and realizes something. She quickly runs out and goes to the temple to talk to Arlo. He repeats that he asked never to be interrupted again, but she just jumps in his lap and says she needs to talk to him. Celeste says that the spirit might be upset with them and asks if they're in danger. Arlo asks her not to worry, as the spirit loves her and nothing will happen to her. Celeste says she was supposed to be the next one to be chosen, and that he wasn't a leader fit to be with the spirit, and yet was chosen by him. Arlo says that in 3 years all her pain will disappear and thousands of acres of forest will be hers forever. He mentions that sometimes nature gives them a lot, but asks for something in return, and Celeste finds this strange. He asks her to take care of the farm while he's away. Meanwhile, Dean and Carla argue, and he asks if she did that out of revenge. She reveals that it's a little more complicated than that. He asks if she did anything sexual, but she refuses to say anything. He says that while he was writing the book, she was practicing an orgy with Celeste. He says he intends to stop writing, and this catches her attention. He says there's something special about that place, and that he intends to write about the mountain giants. Dean says he was thinking and says they need to go home, and that he doesn't know if they're safe there. Carla quickly refuses and says she's not ready to leave. He asks if she feels as alone as he does. She reveals that yes, and also feels that she was called to that place. Dean says they should leave, as if that place brought them anything. It was pain and suffering, since he feels like a failed man, as he couldn't even have a child. Dean leaves the place and goes to the city. While smoking a cigarette, he sees River on a missing person poster. He takes a picture of it and, in his car, does some research about Arlo's group. During the night, Arlo visits Carla and apologizes for what happened earlier. She realizes he's lying and demands that he say what he wants. He asks if she understood what they do in that forest, and Carla responds that everyone waits their turn to become Bigfoot. She asks him to leave her alone, but Arlo insists, saying she was the chosen one, and asks if she at least understands what that means. She says she doesn't understand any of this, and is almost certain she doesn't want to be a hairy giant. He reveals that she wouldn't be, but rather her son, which touches her and makes her ask him to leave. Arlo mentions that he loves his work, but that sometimes he needs to do what's necessary, and quickly attacks her with a knife. Carla wakes up surrounded by the cult and calls for help from Celeste, but gets no response. Arlo states that it's difficult, but it's an honor to die at the spirit's hands, thanking and declaring his love. Meanwhile, Dean searches for her, but can't find her and fears the worst. Arlo says he will start the ritual, and that, just like William, he too will return. He asks everyone to close their eyes and keep their heads down so as not to irritate the spirit. He places his leg on a log and uses a staff to strike it, but nothing happens, so he tries again. The lights go out and the creature decides to show itself, approaching and spotting the knife stabbed in Carla. Roaring fiercely, it approaches William and ends up killing the man and leaving everyone in shock. Dean, still looking for Carla, finds a man from the group who discovered what he was writing about. The man reveals that the truth cannot leave the forest, to which Dean responds that he doesn't care about that and just wants to find his wife. He tries to pass, but the man stops him, knocks him to the ground, and tries to kill him. Dean takes a pencil from his pocket and manages to hit the attacker's eye. Without wasting time, he runs to help Carla, while the beast massacres everyone in the cult. Dean arrives at that moment and picks up Carla, calling for Celeste, but the woman is paralyzed and unable to move. The beast roaring at her doesn't provoke fear, and the woman screams back. Carla wants to go back to save her friend, but Dean stops her, saying they can't face that. At that moment, Arlo hits Dean in the head with a stone, making him fall. He approaches and stabs Dean, saying no one can know about them. Arlo advances to kill Carla, but the creature appears, hits Arlo in the head, and kills him quickly. Upon seeing this, Carla screams in terror, but the beast approaches, trying to calm her, showing that it's not a threat. Dean tries to react and attacks the creature in the neck, but is thrown to the ground and passes out. As the beast falls, it drags itself to Carla and touches her belly. Carla understands the meaning of this and holds Dean's hand, who reveals that he won't last long and says goodbye to his wife. Carla gets up, takes off all her clothes and runs desperately through the forest. Sometime later, we discover that Celeste became the group's leader, passing on her teachings to the new students. Carla now lives as Bigfoot, and we discover that she became a mother, ending the film.